Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Jennifer Collier. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for PracticeDock. Today's webinar is entitled Booking 75% of Your Patients in Office. Learn how to increase the percentage of patients that are booking procedures. With our special guest, Jon Hoffenberg. To give everyone a little bit of a background on Jon, he's the Executive Vice President of YellowTelescope Medical and is a graduate of the Wharton School of Business. He co-founded YellowTelescope in 2008 with facial plastic surgeon Jeffrey Epstein. He now integrates his broad sales training, staffing, and executive management skills within the plastic surgery industry with a hands-on approach by offering staffing services and quality management training for medical industry professionals. Before we get started, I want to let each of you know that if you have any questions at any time during the webinar, you can submit your questions in the GoToWebinar question box displayed on your screen. It will make sure if we don't answer your question today, we'll get back to you directly at a later date with an answer. We will have special free offers at the end of this webinar, so make sure you stay tuned. And now I'll return this webinar over to Jon. Welcome, Jon.
Hi, thank you very much, and appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody today, and thank you, Jennifer, for your introduction. Excited about this webinar. It's possibly my favorite subject on which I speak on any webinar or live meeting or article. And today we're going to talk about how do we increase the on-the-spot sales ratio for patients and clientele in essentially any medical practice, medical spa, or similar. And after the webinar, certainly there's a vast amount of resources and information available on our website, YellowTelescope.com, and I'm certainly also happy to speak with individual practices along with my executive team. There will be information at the webinar on essentially how to contact us and submit questions and so on. So let's dive right in. First of all, just a little bit of background on the results of the YellowTelescope sales staff. We do focus on helping practices to hire, train, and oversee all of the non-medical medical staff. By non-medical medical staff, I'm referring to the people who aren't in the medical area, meaning we don't work with nurses or per diem techs, but rather with practice managers, patient advisors, or consultants, essentially salespeople, and of course the doctors themselves to help them maximize revenue growth. And while it goes without saying, the most important thing that any medical practice or spa or anything in between is providing is quality service and outstanding outcomes, there is certainly a time and a place to discuss how to grow your business and grow your practice to its highest level, because we are all in business to also make some money as we help people look better and feel better every day. The average YellowTelescope patient advisor that we've worked with and trained on average for 2012 sold over $2.5 million worth of surgery and services. Some of our offices have 2 patient advisors, and I use the word patient advisor essentially interchangeably with the word salesperson. I like the word sales, and I like sales in general. I think it's not something that we do to people, but rather for people. It's helping them to make a decision to purchase something that they already want or need. But in any case, we know industry-wide this is typically called a patient consultant or advisor, but just if you keep seeing that letter, those letters PAs or patient advisors there, that's what I'm speaking of. So some of our offices have a couple of patient advisors selling over $3 million each, with over 80% of the patients who walk in their offices booking before they leave with a deposit paid. The top people in our group really consider anything under 60% closing ratio on the spot to not be successful. And I hate to use the word failure, but that's the way that they look at it. Nationally, based on the research that we've done of tens of millions of dollars worth of sales on tens of thousands of patients, the average office in the United States selling plastic surgery, lasers, filler products, etc., anything that's cash-based, non-insurance, the average office has an on-the-spot closing ratio ranging between 15 and 20%. That means 1 out of every 5 or so, 1 out of every 6 perhaps, of the people that walk in your offices on average are giving you a credit card that day or cash for a deposit or a full payment on whatever procedure or treatment they're considering. In our offices, we expect no less than 60%, and we aim for over 80%, and that's why the topic is how to get to that 75% or so ratio. We do run perhaps the country's busiest individual facial plastics practice. The co-owner of YellowTelescope is Dr. Jeff Epstein, and along with me, we really test out everything that we do. None of the things that we come up with or suggest or teach are sort of the opinion of someone who went to college who just thinks that they're smart, or are ideas that sound intuitive but turn out not to be correct. Everything that we teach, we literally practice every day, and we roll out nationally only after we see exceptional results that blow away the competition. You can obviously visit our website for more information. What we really want to focus on in today's webinar is the concept of the pre-consultation call. I call it the first date. The theory that I have, and not just a theory, but again proven in actual outcomes, is that patients in general act very similar to men and women in a simple dating format. For the vast majority of people, there's the old saying that you don't kiss on the first date. And I guess some people do. If the guy or the girl on the other side of the equation is a very good salesperson, but the vast majority of the time we're always coached that you don't kiss on the first date. And typically by the third date, if there's not one little smooch, well, you know, a lot of people are going into the friend zone. In patients, it's a very similar concept. Most patients, when they contact your office initially, don't have any real intention of placing a deposit that day. They're mostly gathering information. And then usually by the time they show up and you do a number of follow-ups, maybe by the second or third or fourth call or maybe a second consultation, they're finally sort of at that third date scenario where they're saying, yep, I'm willing to give this doctor the proverbial kiss. I'm willing to actually place my deposit for the surgery or for the treatment. And so the question then is, how do we shift that paradigm forward? How do we help patients to feel more comfortable placing the deposit the second that they walk in the door to your office? Now, what I don't believe is that there's any way to change the nature of people. They're still going to want 3 dates. They're still going to have to believe in their own mind that they've gone through that necessary process. So when we're dating, it might be that we go on 3 dates. In other cases, it may be that we have 3 or 4 phone calls before the first date that helps the other individual feel like they're a little further into the relationship than they really are when you actually count up the amount of live time together. Well, sales, particularly in the medical industry, works exactly the same, which is we need to still have 3 dates, but we need to treat the contact that we have with the patient earlier on more seriously and apply more resources, energy, and talent at that time. And that leads to the pre-consultation call. Unfortunately, in a vast majority of offices, due to lack of education, lack of staffing, etc., basically the person who answers the phone schedules the appointment. Hi, thanks for calling Dr. Smith's office. How can I help you? Great, you'd like an appointment. That sounds wonderful. How about Tuesday at 3? Here's our office directions, and have a great day. This, unfortunately, is skipping an opportunity for a first date that's going to move the conversation forward and help the patient to be prepared to have the procedure much, much sooner. This literally is where the procedure is sold. One of the funniest things that we found, and for all the doctors listening on this webinar, I'm sorry to tell you, certainly your reputation is very important. If you didn't have a good reputation, nobody would call in the first place. If you don't have photos on your website, if you don't have proper SEO, if you don't have all those other intangibles in place, that's going to hurt the volume of calls and emails that you're receiving. However, the reason that people are actually booking with you turns out not so much to be you. It turns out very much to be the patient advisor, the initial call, and then the consultation itself before they meet the doctor. This right here, this pre-consultation call, is exactly where the procedure is sold. It goes without saying that the attitude on the call has to be very positive. Those first impressions go a long way. Now, some might say, well, you know, my receptionist has a good attitude. She's chipper and she's sharp and, you know, she does a good job. And that may be true, but we need a lot more than that. There's a specific process that should be followed on the consultation call to get the proper results. The most important thing is that even if you have a standard receptionist answering the call, and even if your receptionist is a super talented, wonderful individual, as many of them are, if that person is not the one who's going to be seeing the patient in consultation and is not a true born and bred salesperson, you must make sure that that call is transferred to someone who is. In our offices, the highest level individual after the doctor is the one who's going to answer the call. The most highly paid, the most highly educated, and the one who has the greatest sales background. So in our offices, it needs to be, thanks for calling Dr. Smith's office, how can I help you? Wonderful, great. And you were interested in a rhinoplasty? That sounds great. Let me go ahead and transfer you over to our patient advisor to get you all the information that you need. That patient advisor is then a highly trained individual. A couple of objections to handle. Some doctors say, well, the reality is I'm relatively new, John. We have a limited budget, and I'm not able to necessarily have a receptionist and a patient advisor. The answer in that case is your patient advisor needs to be a receptionist, not vice versa. The most important individual decision you make as a practice or med spa on a daily basis, besides the actual work that you as the physician or owner does on a daily basis, is your senior most individual. It's all about the people. If you don't have the right person on the bus, everything else is going to go wrong. And in our opinion, before you're spending money on a massive build-out, before you're spending money on a huge medical team, before you're investing in your local society magazines, before you're even developing the most massive website presence, you have to have at least one key individual, because when you're in surgery, when you're treating people, who is going to be answering that phone and dictating the actual outcome and results of your practice? It turns out to be one individual. Once you have that exceptional individual, that's the person who must take this call, because we treat every single phone call as though it's a live consultation. And what I'm going to do is walk you through an example of a typical phone call, and then I'm going to backtrack through that phone call and talk to you a little bit about the psychology behind why we're doing what we're doing. So here it goes. Thanks for calling Dr. Smith's office. How can I help you? Yes, I'm calling in about a rhinoplasty. Wonderful. Let me go ahead and transfer you to our patient advisor, Jon Hoffenberg. We'll be able to get you some information on that. You also notice I'm talking fast to save time. Do not talk this fast over the phone. Thanks for holding. This is John. How can I help you? Hi, John. I'm calling about a rhinoplasty. I heard the doctor's really great. Wonderful. Thanks so much for calling. How's everything going with you today? Oh, it's going wonderful. Great. Well, what I'm going to go ahead and do, first of all, Mrs. What was your name again? Barbara. Wonderful. That's what our receptionist had mentioned to me, Barbara. Barbara, what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather some information, and then I'm going to give you some information, then I can go ahead and get you on the schedule. Does that sound good? Yes, it sounds good, John. Wonderful. First of all, let me go ahead and get your demographic information. What's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email? What's your source? How'd you find out about us, et cetera, et cetera. Wonderful. Great. Well, let me go ahead and actually find out a little bit about your goals. What are you hoping the doctor is going to be able to do for you? Oh, well, I have a little bump on the tip of my nose, and I want that to be taken down, and I just wish it was more refined. Wonderful. That all makes sense, and I'm taking a couple notes for the doctor and everything you're saying. Well, before I go ahead and get you scheduled, let me give you a little bit of information. First of all, Dr. Smith has actually been around for the last 18 years. He is a triple board certified facial plastic surgeon. He's performed over 10,000 procedures over that 18-year period. He is a former president of Florida Society for Facial Plastic Surgery. He's been in GQ and WNL and Essence and Vanidades and a bunch of different magazines and TV shows. On top of that, he's obviously a very nice guy. We do focus more so on not so much on his educational background, which is exceptional, not so much on his different accolades in PR, which there's many, but rather on his results. We do have over 5,000 photos on our website. We have over 400 YouTube videos and over 1,000 patient testimonials. Just go ahead and check out our website, and I'm going to email that information, get off the phone with you. So as far as pricing goes, a lot of people are so generally curious as far as what a rhinoplasty might cost with us. And obviously, as you know, you can certainly go elsewhere and spend more than we might charge you, and certainly there's quite a number of places that are going to be a little less than we are. But we tend to be on the higher end because the quality of work is really, we think the best. In general, you're going to spend somewhere between around $6,000 and $10,000 for the procedure. The vast majority of patients are going to spend somewhere in the middle in that $8K range. And assuming that you're kind of comfortable with that price range, I can certainly go ahead and find a time to put you on the schedule. What are your thoughts based on all this? Oh, that price range is just what I thought it would be, John. Or they say, well, oh, gosh, I didn't know it would be quite that much. I was thinking it would be more like 5 or 6, and we'll come back to how to handle that momentarily. But let's assume they say, yeah, that price range is great. I'll say, great. Well, that sounds wonderful. Let me go ahead and find a time that's going to work okay for you. How's Tuesday at 3 o'clock? Okay, that time's great. We schedule the patient. We firm them up. And, Dr. Smith, Barbara is going to be taking time to meet with you personally, so we do want to make sure this is a time you can definitely make. If you do have an emergency, we do understand things come up. And what I'd like to really ask you is if something does come up, would you be kind enough to at least email or call us if you'd like to select a different time or cancel for any reason? That'd be fine. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, it was a real pleasure to speak with you. I'm going to send you an email confirming your appointment. You'll have our address and some additional information about the doctor and links to our websites. And then last, let me explain kind of the process for scheduling. Now, Barbara, I obviously do understand that you're going to need to confirm that you even like the doctor, which I'm sure you will. Everybody loves him. And I also understand that, we need to get you a final price to make sure you're comfortable with it. But assuming that it is in that price range that I give you, in that 6 to 10K range with an average of around 8K, and understanding your work and family schedule, do you have sort of a general time frame in mind as to when you're hoping to have a procedure? meaning were you looking for the next, ASAP, next month or two? Are you looking for 6 months, looking for a year or more? Oh, well, gosh, Jon, I was looking for as soon as possible. Oh, wonderful. That sounds great. Well, let me just explain the process to you for scheduling, Barbara. Now, again, first of all, Barbara, we're not in any rush at all. I never want you to feel rushed. Whenever you're ready, we're ready. If you want to go in 10 years, besides the price is probably going up over the next decade, besides that, we're going to be here for you. Now, because you're telling me that your time frame is relatively soon, let me explain the process for scheduling. First, when you come in, the doctor's going to meet with you. You'll have a recommendation. You'll have a price, and you kind of know what it's going to be anyway. We'll basically pick out a date while you're here, and then you'll place a deposit. In our office, the way that works is you place a 20% deposit. That's fully refundable until 2 weeks prior to your procedure. So that way, if you do have something come up, you can cancel or change dates with no penalty. And then you just place the final balance upon the, a few days before the procedure. Now, Barbara, obviously, again, I know you'll need to confirm you like the doctor, but because of the time frame you're looking for, it's going to make sense for you to bring your calendar with you and have kind of an idea in your head before you walk in our door of what dates are going to work. Talk with the husband, figure things out. Secondarily, you'll want to be prepared with your 20% deposit, not because you absolutely have to schedule with us, but simply because you're looking for that 30 to 60-day window, and in order to really have a great chance of getting a date, you'll need to be prepared at the time we speak to at least reserve one. And again, you take no risk because the deposit is refundable. Does that whole process make sense to you, Barbara? It does? Okay, wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time. Any other questions I can answer for you before I let you go? Okay, great. Well, I'll send that email confirmation out to you shortly, and looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday. I should be here to greet you. All right, thanks so much, and have a wonderful day. Okay, bye-bye now. So, it's a fast version, so you may need to have a webinar review at some point. But that quick example that I've just walked you through of a typical phone call is essentially what you're seeing on your screen right now, which is positive attitude, gather their goals, build the doctor's status and accolades, create a trial close where you present price ranges and get time frames. Once you gain commitment, then schedule the patient, firm them up by going through the deposit information, then give them a warm, cuddly goodbye and an email confirmation. So the question is, what have we accomplished in this? Well, let's think backwards. When someone comes into your office and doesn't place a deposit, what are the reasons? Well, unfortunately, I can't hear you guys talk back to me right now, so let me throw some out for you. The first reason is they have no money, meaning they have no money. They just they thought it was going to be $300 and it's $5,000. They're totally off base. Second is they also have no credit whatsoever. And they have no cosigner, so they have to be what I call a triple non-threat. They have no money, they have no help, and they have no credit. And that's a person who is never going to book at all under any circumstances. There's nothing you could have ever done, and there's a question of whether they should have even been in the office. So that's a no money, no hope, no plans. The second reason would be they have a fear of surgery, and a good consultation should solve that. But if the doctor doesn't do a good consultation or you don't explain things well. But for the most part, from what I've seen, the patients usually like the doctor. You do a pretty thorough job of explaining the procedure to them, and that's not usually the issue. They never would have come in if they weren't interested. And the third issue is they just weren't prepared that day. They didn't mentally get to their third date yet. They still are in the information gathering phase, if only mentally. And that's all this is it's a mental game. Marketing and sales is really just psychology applied to business. And what happened is they come in and they say, well, Jon, I have the money. It's not that. And no, I definitely know that he's the doctor for me, or I at least know I'm going to have the procedure. But, I just really hadn't thought about dates. And, I really just would need to talk to my husband first. And, although I did plan on spending the money, I didn't really realize how much it would be. So I really need to think about that too. And these all create what we call the cloud objections, which is an objection that stands in front of the truth. It looks like a real objection, but it's really just a cloud that hides the truth, which is they had no information and they came in the wrong way. The key to the call is to help patients to come in the right way. A great analogy for this is you've probably gone to math class, and whether you were the goody two-shoes smart honors kid or whether you were the slacker who eventually made good in the cosmetics industry or the medical industry, whichever you fall into, anytime you went to class, there was one kid in math class who sat at the front and took notes and loved math and paid attention, and there was one slacker kid in the back shooting spitballs. And your patients are the same way, and the question is, who are you going to bring into your office? Are you going to bring a spitball shooting a patient, for lack of a better term, or are you going to bring in a studious, ready-to-go, excited patient who understands all the information they need so that they're more prepared to place the deposit that day? So let's walk through this a little bit more. I know we spent a lot of time on this slide, and things will pick up quickly from a slide perspective shortly. But the key is to remember this is where the surgery is sold. We already know why a positive attitude is important. I'm not going to review that. It goes without saying. No one's going to pick you because they like you, but they're going to definitely not pick you if they don't like you. We're going to gather their goals so they feel heard. Not only is it important for us to know to prep the doctor before the patient arrives, not only is it good for us to have a better sense, but it helps build a relationship, build a warm rapport, and make sure they feel heard. Something my wife has explained to me over the years is I don't necessarily have to solve any problems for her, but I do need to listen because when she feels heard, she feels comfortable. And it works both ways. I've realized that when she lets me vent about the frustrating day or the one bad thing that happened, even if she doesn't agree, I feel heard, and it makes me feel comfortable that she's listening. We then build up the doctor's status and accolades. The reason that this has to be done by phone is they need affirmation that their online research, their referral from a other patient or a doctor is justified. And we're about to give them a price range, which makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels for a lot of reasons, which I'll come back to shortly. But it only makes sense to present a price once you've built value and they understand the whys behind that price range. If you just say, you know, this box next to my bed is $600, no one's going to buy the box next to your bed. If you explain to them that it's a television and you can basically see through time and space and magically have a human being appear in it that will entertain you for an hour, that actually sounds pretty cool, and they may buy the television. It's about explaining to them what you're bringing to the table with your doctor and your practice. Once we've built the doctor up to sort of demigod status, we're then able to present prices and do what we call a trial close, which is sort of a feeling out of where the patient is in their research and preparation process. I am a huge fan of presenting prices by phone. I think anyone who is not is incorrect. I'm sorry for the few of you listening who disagree with me. But we have good, strong reasons behind it, including tons and tons of research and results. And the reality is I don't believe in giving exact cost for any procedure because it's so definitive. Do you want to spend $5 or not? I don't. Goodbye. Versus if you're able to say, look, you know, this hair transplantation procedure broadly could range from, gosh, $20,000 all the way down to $4,000. Well, you're going to weed people in that way, not weed people out. Now, if they really don't have even $4,000 for a hair transplant, they're probably not going to have one, and it's okay to lose that patient. But you give a broad enough range to weed people in who are on the bubble, to weed people in who might get a higher quote, and then also to get most people in the middle. So for rhinoplasty, maybe it's $6,000 to $10,000. For a facelift, maybe it's $10,000 to $15,000. Depends on your location, your brand, your process. For breast augmentation, maybe it's between $3,000 and $5,000 in some markets, and others between $7,000 and $12,000. It very much depends. But regardless, we're giving them a broad range to help them feel like there may be a chance that they're going to be able to do it, and telling them that most likely they should plan for somewhere in the middle to make sure they're comfortable with that. And then we ask a question that will give us the information we need, which is, does that sound okay to you? Do you have the money? Are you comfortable? So we say, well, Mrs. Smith, you know, our price for a tummy tuck in general can range from around $7,000 to $10,000. Usually not that high or that low. The vast majority end up in the middle at $8,500. Assuming that you're comfortable with all that, Mrs. Smith, I can go ahead and get you on the schedule for sometime next week. What are your thoughts based on that? By asking that question, we're going to get one of two replies. The first reply is, yeah, no, I've done my research. I know all about Dr. whoever, and that's pretty much what everybody's saying it costs, and as long as I like them, that sounds great. Well, what we've done right there is we've closed the sale before they've walked in the door. This is a person who likes us, who knows we understand their goals, who we've built up the doctor to and confirmed their suspicion that he was excellent or she was excellent. And then we've given them a range and confirmed they have the money. How do we feel when that patient walks in the door? When that patient walks in the door, we know we've got someone who's ready to schedule and is coming in the right way, sort of the head of the class style patient. The other response we're going to get at this point is either a flat out, oh my gosh, I had no idea, I thought it was going to be half that, or we're going to get someone who doesn't say that outright, but because we're feeling people, because salespeople in general are good at reading others and feeling what other people are saying and thinking, we get a vibe from them that they're not comfortable. And so you'll get something like, So Mrs. Smith, assuming that that range is comfortable with you, we can certainly find a time to get you on the schedule. And they'll say, yeah, yeah, I mean, that sounds good. You can put me on the schedule. Well, you know, that's like hearing this. Do you love me? Yeah, I mean, I love you. That does not sound good to me. That's not what I want to hear. So even though they said the right thing, we're not hearing the right thing, but we have an opportunity right now. The truth is going to come out, isn't it? Meaning they're going to come to the appointment. We're going to find out they have no money. We're going to find out they need financing. We're going to find out they need a cosigner. We're going to find out they have to double check with their husband. Or we're going to find out that their kids are going to private school and they're a little worried about cash. We're going to find out what their fear is at some point. The question is, why do we wait till the end of the consultation to do it? The only reason I've ever been given is, well, if I bring them in and they don't really have the money but they're on the bubble and then they fall in love with the doctor, then maybe they'll go out and find the money. And the answer is they might. You know, there is that chance. And yes, you might get a couple extra people that way. But what we found is that for the handful of extra people you'll get a year by bringing all of those extras in, compare that to raising your on-the-spot close ratio from 15 to 20% to 75%, where literally 5 extra people out of every 10 who walk in your office place a deposit while they're with you that day. And I'm not talking about weeding a ton of people out here. I'm not talking about no longer scheduling anyone for consultation. In our offices, we do not charge for the consultation. We run probably the highest volume practice maybe in the country, and we charge one of the highest prices in the country. So we have all of those hurdles and impediments to booking, yet we still are getting them in the door because their attitude changes and they come in ready to book. So if they do say they're not ready, we have an opportunity to continue the conversation. And one of the things I'll simply say is, okay, you know, if you don't mind me saying so, Barbara, it sounds like you have a little bit of hesitation on the price, which is very normal. Is that what I'm sensing? And it opens a conversation. They say, well, yeah, you know, to be honest, I've done some research and I've been on one other consultation, and the other one was a couple grand less than that. And now we can work with them over the phone. And we can still choose to bring them in or not, but we can work with them and get them right away onto carecredit.com, or talk to them about cosigner, or figure out when they'll be saved up and ready, and figure out a time for them to come in when they're more ready. Now, nothing is more powerful than when you get the caller who's 19, who has no savings and has no credit, but has a cosigner, to go from coming in, being not ready to book at all, and then never hearing from them again, to over the phone, having them talk to their mom in the next room, speaking to their mom for 10 minutes. Their mom says, I'm in total support of my 19-year-old. They go online while you're chit-chatting with them, get approved for care credit, and then they come in, after giving you their care credit number, booked for a surgery. And that happens a whole lot more than the other scenario we were talking about, where they come in, get excited, then go home and call you back later. Now, you might say, well, we have a great callback ratio. In fact, one of the great offices that we work with for our YellowTelescope think tanks was talking about how they had a 30% callback rate to book surgery, meaning out of every 10 people who didn't book on the spot, 3 out of 10 of them called back and booked their surgery later, which is an exceptional ratio. What was interesting is their on the spot was only about 20%, so they were getting 50%. And I said, well, what if you just got 70% today? Wouldn't that still be 20% better? And if you take your office's sales volume for the year, if you're doing $1 million, that's 200 grand extra. If you're doing a $500,000, it's 100 grand. If you have a $10 million practice, that's $2 million in extra sales. And what's interesting is these results actually happen in every practice we've ever worked with. Every practice we've ever done this with has grown by between 60 and 125% in their very first year working with us. And that's a massive, shocking number when you actually think it through. So by doing this trial close, we're figuring things out when things aren't right, and when they are right, they're coming in so ready. We then, get their commitment, we explain the deposit and the process in advance, and then we say goodbye to them. And you'll notice I do explain the process for deposit in advance before they show up, and I do it in a very, very lighthearted and very low-key, non-pushy, non-pressury fashion, but I at least explain it to them because this is the first date. I want to get them all the information about why I'm the best guy to kiss and marry. And so I explain the deposit. I let them know that I'm not rushed, but assuming they want the time frame that they want, they'll need to be prepared. Now, I'm always honest. If they say I'm looking for December, well, obviously we're not fully booked for December a year in advance, but if they say, I'm looking for the next 30, 60, 90 days, in our offices, that means we're probably pretty full or very full, if not totally full, in which case I'm going to build that urgency over the phone and help them to come in ready to book with their calendar and so on. And you'll notice, again, their mental paradigm has shifted immensely to, I'm going to call you, and you're going to give me whatever information I want, which really is an appointment, and then I'm going to interview you and your doctor, and if you live up to my expectation of what you should be, then I'll consider when I can come in if you give me the best discount. Two, in other words, the shift happens to, wow, these people are extremely impressive. The person I spoke with is highly educated and knowledgeable. I have a lot of information, way more than those last 3 crazy places I called. And gosh, I'm lucky to have an appointment, and, you know, God willing, I'm able to get a surgical date, I mean, regardless of the price. I just hope I can get one during my time frame, so I better bring my deposit with me. And that literally happens in a period of a 10 to 15-minute phone call. People then ask, well, what about the length of the call, John? Well, what's interesting is the first 2 weeks of February in our busiest office, we booked 58 surgeries in a 2-week period. And what was interesting is one of those weeks we only had and we have 6 or 7 patient advisors in one of our offices. Each patient advisor only had an average of 1 or 2 or 3 consultations each day. It's just that everybody booked. And so we have more time to have these calls because we're not spending 90 minutes with a patient who's 16, hasn't told their parents about it, and is not ready to book the procedure, or an adult who thought the procedure was going to be $800 to find out it was $9,000. So you start to get the feeling of how we're shifting the paradigm, and congratulations, we've finished this slide. The proper consultation order. Once they come in, and this will go real quick, the reality is most everything is already set. You know everything. You've taken great notes in NextTech or Patient Now or whatever proprietary software you guys use. And if you don't have a computer system and you're still using just paper charts to write on, please yell at your doctor, beg and plead. You've got to have a proper CRM sales tool. Contact me. Something's got to change. But assuming you have that, you know everything about them coming in. And here we go. The patient advisor must do the consultation. I know there are doctors out here who still do their own patient consultations, owners of med spas who still do their own consultations. Guys, this is a mistake. You can't build yourselves up. That's the biggest issue. If a doctor brags about himself, he's bragging. She's bragging. If a patient advisor brags about you, it just makes you look fantastic. Me getting on this webinar and telling you about how I'm amazing doesn't do anything for me. But if I had one of my team members get on the call, or when Jennifer gives me an introduction, it builds me up without me looking like I'm arrogant. On top of that, the patient advisors can prep you with all kinds of information, make sure you're going into it the right way, you understand their concerns and fears, make sure you don't recommend a full facelift with a brow lift with a nose job for someone who really was coming in for submental liposuction and so on. Talk to your patient advisors, talk to your team. Trust me, they know this and they want this more than you ever realize. Once they're there, we build rapport. We help insulate the patient, help them feel comfortable. We go through their goals again, even though we know them. We explain the procedure in abundant and honest detail, tell them the goods, tell them the bads. And right before we get the doctor to come see them live, we re-perform the exact same trial close. And this is where the second date happens, folks. So in any case, Barbara, obviously it's been really great getting to know you live here today, and thank you for coming in for your consultation. I'm going to get Doc and have him meet with you and obviously, make your recommendation. We can go from there. Now, I know we spoke pretty much in detail last week about your appointment and your time frame. When we had spoken, I kind of covered with you that the price range is $6,000 to $10,000, really never that high or that low, vast majority around $8,000. And I know that you had mentioned that you were looking for early April. Just to confirm, is that still what you're looking for? Yeah, John, that's really, if I could get somewhere in that first week, it'd be great. Wonderful, Barbara. Like I had mentioned to you last time, again, we're not in any rush whatsoever. Never want you to feel rushed or pressured, but if you do want to go ahead and get that date, realistically, it would make sense for you to place your deposit today. Again, assuming you like Doc once you meet with them and everything else, because you'll still have some time to cancel or change dates if you need. And it will at least get you on the calendar. It's sort of like a Valentine's Day dinner. You've got to book in advance. Doesn't mean you have to eat there. You can always cancel and go to McDonald's. But assuming that you do want at least the opportunity to go to that restaurant, you have to book in advance. And our office is the same way. So great. Let me go get Doc. We then get the doctor. I've got articles on YellowTelescope.com and different talks and so on how to do the doctor consultation better, and doctors do need a lot of help on that a lot of times. Other times they're quite good. We then present price at the end, and we schedule them with total confidence because this is the third date. We already know they like us. We already know they're going to kiss us. What's so great is we've already made the sale. All we're doing is just giving them the information they have. This is literally the extent of my close at the end of a consultation. So Barbara, well, Doc pretty much told us what we thought. Your total quote is $8,000, which is pretty much what we talked about just a minute ago, as well as live on the phone. And I know you said kind of the first week of April, so I don't know. I mean, assuming that you're comfortable with everything, I can actually offer you April 4th. What are your thoughts? Would you like to get on the calendar then? And they say, yeah, here's my credit card. We take them up front. We take care of business. And that's basically that. And what's interesting is even though I consider myself and my team and really this industry a sales industry and a sales team and myself a salesperson, nothing that I do is pushy or pressury. In fact, they generally give me the hug on the way out because there is no real closing question. There is no hardcore pushy sale at the end. It's simply, hey, we've covered all this. You knew all this. We're up front in advance. And boom, they place their deposit. It's important to build urgency. One of the things I see a lot of practices do is they do it dishonestly. They lie. They make things up. They say, well, gosh, we don't have anything open for 5 months. None of that's needed to be a great salesperson or to keep your schedule full. Just tell them the truth. Realistically, Barbara, in our main office in New York, we don't have anything available till May 30th. Down in Miami, we're a little bit more open. I may be able to get you in sooner, but I got to tell you, our dates do fill in advance, and it makes sense to be prepared when you arrive. With your calendar, with some dates that will work. Make sure you have that discussion with the husband in advance, and at least be prepared to place your deposit. Obviously, if you don't love us, if you're not 100% sure, by all means, you can go elsewhere or take some time. But to get the best chance of that date, it makes sense. You want to be urgent on the phone. You want to be urgent in the consultation. You want to be urgent when you're closing, and then also urgent even if they don't book on the spot for future planning. Make sure there's a date certain to follow up. What we found is that if you're trying to sell right now, it's really too late. If you're in the consultation and trying to convince them and trying to answer objections and trying to handle issues, and this could be for something as simple as I want a nice new shampoo, to I would like to try a laser resurfacing, to I would like liposuction, to I would like a facelift, or anything in between. Now is too late. The sale really does happen over the phone. The sale was made a while ago. All you really have to do at the end is just smile, present price, and wait for an answer. And kind of think positively. We always say just act as if. It is funny. In my best streak I've had, and I don't say this, I say it quite humbly because I've had my bad streaks, and everybody does and everybody will. I've had those days where I set up everybody perfectly, and despite my best efforts, it just doesn't go well. Things change. But at one point, I know that I had not had a no sale in about 3 weeks. Every single person placed a deposit. And what was funny is because I was already confident, I went in with an air of confidence. And it's one of these sort of cheesy, be positive and things will go well. And, you read The Secret and the whole world will somehow gather around you. And I'm not sure if that's all true, but I do think there's no question that when you get on a bad run, you've really got to regroup yourself and get yourself in the mirror and make sure you feel good about how you look, good about how you feel, and make sure you're thinking positive, because when you act as if everything's perfect, the results start to follow. It's a cheesy example, but I actually happen to have a fun song I play every time I do a consultation. It gets me fired up and excited, and it keeps changing. But you should pick something out. I had So Fresh, So Clean by Outkast at one point. That was a fun one. Listen to it. It's hard not to be excited. I had the Super Mario Brothers theme played by a symphony at one point. It's odd, it's weird, but it works for me. For you guys, it might just be getting in the mirror, but you have to go into an appointment with a high level of confidence and really believe in what you're doing and believe what you're doing for patients is a positive. One of the things that keeps me very motivated, even when I'm not having a good day or a good week, is to remind myself that the doctors I work for are really the best. I really believe that. I think anybody who doesn't pick my doctor, not that they're going to have a bad outcome, but I know for sure if they pick me, they're going to have a good one. So I consider myself to be someone who's saving lives. My attitude is, hey, you picked me, that's one more I've saved from who knows who, some other shady, questionable doctor from who knows where. Being in Miami and New York, we've got some of the best, we've got some of the worst of the worst, and I really feel good about what I'm doing every time I make a sale, because I know they want it. I know if they don't pick me, they're picking someone else. And if they pick someone else, there's at least a 20 or 30% chance that they could have a less than positive outcome, and it's my job to save them from that. So treat every call like it's a live consultation. Treat every consultation like it's a definite sale. Follow the outline, not the exact words of what I'm saying. Don't try and memorize my style, but think about the concept and be urgent and be confident because the sale is really already made. Before I pass it over to Jennifer, I want to run through a couple of special offers and some contact information that we provide. People always say, what is YellowTelescope? And it's become more and more popular. But YellowTelescope was formed in 2008. It's been around for about 5 years. It was co-founded by Dr. Jeffrey Epstein and myself. We basically do only one thing, which is help practices grow. Not from a web development perspective. We're not advertising, marketing people. We work with the top practice managers, the top salespeople, and the top doctors in the world to help their practices grow in a major way. One of my favorite lines is that, and my wife will confirm this, is that I'm super terrible, extremely bad at a whole bunch of things. My weaknesses are many. But on the few things that our team really is exceptional at, we really do think we're the finest in the industry, and we focus on doing exactly those. The two things that we do is, first of all, we run 2-day training seminars. You've gotten about a 30 to 45-minute glimpse of the types of information that we provide. We do 2-day training seminars, which take place in Miami once a year. Last year's, it's always at a 5-star hotel, was at the Mandarin Oriental in Miami. This year's is going to be in Miami on October 4th and 5th as well, either Mandarin Oriental or another 5-star hotel, Ritz, etc. All of our meetings, unlike a bunch of the different big conferences and stuff that go on, these are relatively intimate groups, typically from 25 to 50 people. Everybody gets to know each other. Everything is implementable information. We don't just teach rah-rah, hey, let's get excited and go home, and 3 days later you feel like you really haven't done anything, you're just excited by a meeting. Here we're teaching hands-on, implementable skills that you can immediately take back to your practice and get results with. We literally guarantee the meeting. If it's not the best meeting you have ever been to in your entire life, ever, we give you your money back, no questions asked, end of story. Last year's event, based on anonymous reviews, we got a 9.88 out of 10. Which we think is very strong, and there's countless testimonials at YellowTelescope.com for you to read through. If you sign up before March 31st, we're also offering a $1,000 early sign-up special, and your price includes everything, hotel rooms for 2 nights, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and you're missing 1 day of work. It's just a Friday, Saturday, and then you can fly home Saturday night or hang out in South Beach and have fun. Saturday night and go home Sunday. On top of that, we have complimentary 15-minute practice calls to discuss staffing and or staff training. What our real bread and butter is beyond these 2-day training seminars is on a day-to-day basis, we work with some of the world's most elite practices to help them to hire, train, and then oversee their practice manager, patient advisor staff, or add new associates, doctors to their practice. The concept is that we basically guarantee results. Every practice who's hired us to do this over a long period of time has grown by 60 to 125% in their first year with us. And the results have really, really been tremendous. These initial calls are basically to find out if we're a fit. Some practices, I'd say half need staffing. They're like, we really could use a new patient advisor to add to the team. We know exactly what you're looking for. We run literally a staffing company, and we have the most sophisticated system for finding the best people in the country to work for you. The other half of the practices basically say, well, we've really got great people. We love them. We don't want to change our staff. We just want them to have formal training. And the reason they don't have formal training is there is no formal training. There's no formal training I'm aware of in our industry besides us. There's some meetings to go to. There's some consultants out there, but there's no formalized training beyond ours in the industry that's sales and business and leadership organizationally focused. So in any case, we provide staffing and training over a long period of time. So the initial call leads to about a third of the practices saying, wow, you're nice people, and we say you're nice people, and there's not really a fit there, but we stay in touch. About a third, it's like, wow, this is amazing. We're totally a fit. This is just great that I was on that webinar. And about a third or somewhere in between, we say, this is kind of interesting. Let's set up another call and kind of see where it goes. So even there's no charge for that call. If I have time, I do every one myself, if not one of my other executive team members at the initial level. Sign up now, by the way, if you haven't done so already, for a complimentary monthly newsletter from us. By monthly, I mean whenever we send them out, which is approximately monthly. We don't spam you or send you any junk, just simple once-a-month emails with really great tips. Right now we're going through the sales psychology behind the 7 steps to making the sale. I think we're on step 3 or 4 now. and you can sign up right now before you forget. Here's me being a salesperson. Don't get off this webinar. Just go to YellowTelescope.com right now and then fill in your form, and you won't get any junk or spam. And we already have 2,000 subscribers to our webinar. We're also beginning a podcast series very shortly. Keep your eyes peeled for that. One of our other executive team members, Ed Searing, is a Wake Forest graduate with over 10 years of experience, and I will be running the podcast, which will be really fun. You can download them and listen to us while you jog. That doesn't sound very good, but we appreciate it if you listen. We really do believe we're the national leader in staffing, training, and augmentation. And staff augmentation, in general, we bring 15 years of experience. Our team has backgrounds from the Wharton School of Business, the top business school in the world, Wake Forest, different honors colleges. We've been in business about 5 years. We are now a seven-figure, multi-million-dollar organization, and things have really gone well. We appreciate all of the help that the industry has provided us. Last but not least, if you're looking to hear more from us, hopefully we'll have another webinar coming up if Jennifer invites us back. She hope she will. We appreciate PracticeDock giving us the option, the opportunity to be on this, and certainly sign up for all of their cool information. But if you'd like to hear more on our website, we have all of our past articles from Plastic Surgery Practice Magazine. There's another article coming out soon in Medical Aesthetics, similar to the topic we discussed here today. We will be speaking 6 or 7 times in Las Vegas. We've actually even been invited to the multi-specialty meeting in Las Vegas to put on an additional full half-day seminar called the Think Tank, which is exclusively invite-only for practices doing between $3 and $10 million per year. It's basically the best of the best that get together. It's a free event, and it's invite-only, so if anyone on the call fits this, is going to be at the multi-specialty meeting in Las Vegas, our industry's largest event, is doing between $3 and $10 million and wants to be considered for an invite, please email me, and that information is above, Jon@FHRPS.com or info@YellowTelescope.com. And then we should be at AFPRS and a number of other meetings. We will have a booth in Las Vegas, so please stop by. I'll be there most of the time along with a bunch of our great team members like Ed and Dan and Roxy and Jeff Epstein and a bunch of others. With that, I very much appreciate everybody being on the call webinar. And hopefully got some great information, and feel free to email if we can be of any service or contact us about any of our upcoming events, seminars, think tanks, and invite-only events. I'll turn it back over to Ms. Collier. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, John. That was very informative information. I just want to let everyone know, in case you missed a little bit of the webinar and you just want to review it again to get the details that John talked about, or let someone else in your organization watch it. I'll have it all available on demand at www.PracticeDock.com under the big blue button that reads On Demand Webinars, and that will be in a few days. As a lot of you know, PracticeDock provides multiple marketing services to help generate more patient leads for doctors. And we do have a special offer today for all attendees in this webinar. We will run a PracticeDock website SEO ranking report for you for free for the first 25 attendees who email me at solutions@PracticeDock.com. What's nice about this report is that it will tell you in complete detail why your site is not ranking well on Google and things you can do on your own for free to fix it. We can also run the same report for your competitors to show how they're ranking against you. Once we have the report ready, we'll have a SEO consultant give you a call, kind of go through the report with you. You can just really understand and easy changes that can be made to your website to help you rank higher on Google and other search engines. And so in case you missed anything today that John had to say, or if you want to register for the free PracticeDock ranking report, at the end of this webinar, as you exit, there will be a pop-up survey. Just answer yes or no to a few of those questions of what you'd like us to follow up with you with, and that will be it. I'd like to thank you all again for joining us today. And John, thank you again for your great advice. For any of those that have any questions, keep them coming. We will make sure to respond to each of you over the next few days with any answers. And this concludes our webinar. I hope each of you have a wonderful day.